Hi, well, on behalf of the Urban Synergy team, I'd like to welcome you all and say thank you for joining Urban Synergy's webinar Results Day 2020. Urban Synergy are doing this webinar because we've been contacted by many parents and students concerned about their predicted exam grades. And Urban Synergy is really here to serve the community, to ensure young people grow up confident and remain enthusiastic and stay on track to reach their full potential and get the most out of their futures. So this seminar, we've collaborated with the most inspirational and educational speakers, so you'll be provided with information so you can make informed decisions on results day itself. So I'm excited and proud to introduce our guest educational speakers today, and I'd like to thank you all for taking out your time this evening to share your top tips with the audience, to everyone who's dialed up. So Dr. Keith Davidson, Dr. June Alexis, Christine Hodes, and Juliet Alexander. And I'm going to hand you over to my wing commander, Mr. Paul Lawrence, who's been a supporter of Urban Synergy since the beginning. So Paul Lawrence, over to you, and to all the listeners this evening. There's a lot of information coming out. Take notes, it's being recorded, but our main thing is providing information in advance so you're prepared for whatever results you come from the day, so it helps to make sure you're confident and reduces the anxiety going forward. Over to you, Paul.
All right, thank you, Leila. Hi,
you're
guys. Welcome. Okay, look, I'm going to be your host for this evening. I'm going to do my best to guide you guys through this. For some of you, Zoom is easy. For some of you, Zoom is not so easy. So what we've tried to do is to make it as easy for you by doing all the work ourselves. Who am I? My name is Paul Lawrence, as Leila mentioned. I'm a founding member of the 100 Black Men of London. I have been with the 100 Black Men of London, obviously, since the start, which is now approaching 22 years ago. For my sins, I'm also a trustee and trainer for Urban Synergy. So chances are, if you have a mentor from Urban Synergy, they were trained by me. As this slide here says, and I'm hoping you can all see the slide, I'm an author of a book, 101 Lessons I Taught My Son, and I run a couple of businesses. Probably most notable is Just Tickets, which is my latest venture. You know, I've always been very pleased working with Urban Synergy, because Urban Synergy do exactly what they say on the label. They're trying to really help young people and their families to get the very best from not just the educational system, but from the environment in which they live. So it's a great opportunity for you guys. I'm hoping that you guys will listen earnestly and that you will enjoy and be educated in the process. This is a very important phase of your lives. And, you know, the circumstances that we've been living under for the last couple of months are different. But you know what? That shouldn't change what outcomes we hope for and we decide to get. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our first speaker. No, that's not true. What I'll do instead is I'll go through your intro and agenda for the day. So we've done the introductions. We're going to have a quick talk about Results Day and what to expect. We're going to look at parental support and emotional well-being. We're going to tackle the topic, if it needs to be, about retakes. We'll talk about appeals and destinations, appeals and bias, UCAS, and further support. And then at the end, as Leila said, we'll have question and answers, and there's a QA box, which is there where you'll be able to bring your questions up as we go along. So now I think I'm going to introduce my first speaker, who is Dr. June Alexis. June is an author and a doctor of education. She'll be covering the topics of results, result day and what to do, parental support and emotional well-being, and of course, retakes. Your turn, June.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lawrence. Good evening, everyone. This is certainly an unusual time for everyone, but especially for our young people. So without any further ado, I'm going to start straight away into my presentation. And I'll be looking at, first of all, Results Day. I just want to tell you in the introduction, the calculations of students' results. Ofqual, the Office of Qualification and Examination Regulation, states that it has developed a fair and robust process for assessing students' grades for summer 2020 from a broad range of evidence, such as center assessment grades for school and colleges, for A and AS levels, and GCEs, predicted grades used for university applications, mock examinations, past performance of the school or college is taken into account when devising the calculated grade. In addition, school and colleges can also take into account three evidences when assessing students' grades: incomplete coursework, coursework after the 20th of March 2020, prior attainment data, such as Key Stage 2, draw on their performances of this year's students compared to those in previous years. Just to give you a background of how your grades are going to be assessed. Next slide, please. Next, examination grades with high educational currency. A and AS level grades for students are expected to achieve the following: A star, A, B, and C. However, most universities are looking for students who have A stars, A, and a B grade. Students must also have passed GCSE mathematics and English with at least a grade 5 to enter university. Just want to make that quite clear. They must have those two subjects at least grade 5 before, even though they might have good A-level results, but they must have them at grade 5. GCSE grades 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5 are considered good grades, the ones that have high educational currency. For taking A and AS levels, schools and colleges are expecting students to achieve in some subjects grade 6 and a 7. The point is, such subjects like mathematics, physics, English literature, they might be looking for English literature for grade 6, mathematics and physics, they might be looking for grade 7. Next slide, please. What to expect on results day. Right. A and AS level results are published on the 13th of August, 2020. So this Thursday, the A and AS levels will be out. GCSE results are going to be published on the 20th of August, a week later. Results for vocational and technical qualification will be available on the same day as A and AS level and GCSE results. Results day for other qualifications are set by individual awarding organization. Students will be awarded a formal calculated grade for each examination that they take. The calculated grades awarded have the same educational currency values previous years. That's very important that they're going to be valuing them exactly the same. Vocational qualification and technical awards will be issued with the calculated results with the approach for GCSE, AS, and A levels. Only examination boards can issue results for private candidates. Early entrant students who have taken their GCSEs earlier, that students in year 10 and below, results will be issued on the same basis as students in year 11 and above. Students with special educational needs and/or disability, schools and colleges have to use their professional experience and make an objective judgment of these students' grades. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah. GCSE student will need to decide what subjects they will want to take at A and/or AS levels, whether to stay on at school or to go to college. A-level students will have to consider the subject they want to study at university. Students with a prior unconditional offer, the place is the student's if he/she wishes to accept it. However, they can go through UCAS clearing and try for a different university if they want to. Students with a prior conditional offer achieve the grades to enter university that gave them that offer. Next slide, please. Mixed results. These students have three options: appeal against poor results if they're allowed, resit the examination subject or subjects to achieve a high grade or grades, go through UCAS clearing, as there could be a chance that a university could offer them a place, an alternative place. Unsuccessful results, students can appeal their results, again if they're allowed. Students can resit all their examination in the autumn term. Students can decide to redo the examination next academic year, 2020 to 2021. Next slide, please. I want to go on now to parental support and emotional well-being. As parents play a crucial role in supporting their children. It's a very stressful, daunting, and traumatic time for students. Parents, you need to prepare your children to cope with whatever the outcome may be. Talk, listen, and explain about their fears, worries, and anxiety. This can be reassuring and relieve the stress that they may be feeling. If children understand and identify anxiety and stress, they'll manage more effectively. The aim is to make your child resilient. Talk to your children about the different options available to them. They have been successful and the results are disappointing. One of those things, are they're successful or disappointing. If your child have achieved well, congratulate them and help them. If your children have achieved well, congratulate them and help them to decide what's the next best step. For example, the A and AS levels they should take, the university degree or university they should attend. Next slide, please. If your children have done well, if your children have not done well, and I'm specifically homing in on this, avoid criticizing your children. Please do not compare your children with their siblings, relative, or friends. And if they come to the point to start, questioning themselves, do not let them become discouraged by comparing themselves with their peers. Focus on the best course of action in their particular situation. Try to play up your children's strengths. Give them encouragement and hope. Do not let your child think of failure as the enemy of success. Persuade your children to put failure to work for them by learning from it. This is very important. Failure is not the end of the world. It's a good learner as well. Next slide, please. I want to focus on retakes. If an A-level, AS level, GCSE, or a VTQ student does not believe the correct results has been given to them in their case, they will have to access to a right of appeal only through their college, school, or college. A and AS level and GCSE students who do not feel their calculated grade reflect their true ability will have the opportunity to retake examination in the summer, in the autumn term. VTQ students who do not feel their results reflect their ability will be able to sit an assessment at the next available opportunity. And I don't have any further information given about when the next available opportunity will be. Students participating in the autumn series of examinations. AS and AS level examinations will take place in October and GCSE examination in November. AS and AS level examination will begin on Monday, the 5th of October and finish on the 23rd. I think I've got the right date, 23rd of, Friday the 23rd, of October. GCSE examination will begin on Monday the 2nd of November and finish on Monday the 23rd of November. Next slide, please. Entry deadlines. The entry deadlines for students for AS and A-level examination is the 4th of September. For GCSE students, they must be entered by the 18th of September, except in the case of English language and mathematics, where the deadline is the 4th of October. Not all external candidates, example, home educated students, will be able to be awarded calculated grades. Students in this position will need to sit their exams either in the autumn term 2020 or in the summer term 2021. Important information here. Centers that usually enter large numbers of students for GCSE English language and maths are likely to face particular challenges in the autumn term. Ofqual has decided to permit examination boards to run a further series in January 2020 for GCSE language and maths only if the demand is high. And my final slide. Next slide, please. Conclusion. What I want to say to the students is that, you know, the situation when it comes out, that's how it is. Just be positive and think carefully about what you want to do. So students who have to retake the examination, they should start organizing their revision straight away. Don't waste any time. Know the examination board and review the syllabus for each subject that you're going to take. For example, the paper or papers for each examination, how many questions they have to answer for each paper, the time allowed for each examination paper, and the marks for each question on the examination paper. And the reason why I say the marks for each question, if you're gonna have, say, for 10 marks for one question and 4 marks for another, you must realize you spend less time on the question for 4 marks and give sufficient time for the questions that you're going to give 10 marks for. What is extremely important is that you plan a revision timetable and give so many hours a day to your studies. Give yourself breaks in between, and also study only for about 6 days a week, because you've got to really get a lot in a short period of time. But make sure you give yourself a complete day free from your work. But make sure your study time is organized. If you're not sure about the examination board or syllabus information, you can always get in touch with your school or your colleges, and they can give that information to you, and you can look it up on the net. But familiarize yourself so that you're confident when you retake your exams in the autumn term. Just want to take this opportunity to wish all the young people every best for the future, and do the best wherever you can, and remain positive, and go out and achieve and fulfill your potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you, June. Look, guys, it's very important that you really take on board the stuff that June has been saying. And you know what? For the vast majority of you, you're going to sail through your exams. It's going to be fine, and the nervousness will be unwarranted. But there is a small percentage of you who are not going to do as well as you had hoped and expected. Let me reassure you that if that becomes the case for you, it is not the end of the world. Yep. I'm sitting in front of you as somebody who, when I did my exams back before you were even a twinkle in your mom and dad's eyes, I did not do well. But it did not stop me, because I had the drive to pick myself up afterwards. The only real failure is when you fail to learn the lessons that are being taught to you. So if you're one of those people who you don't get the grades that you absolutely want, please, 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 don't think of it as the end. Just think of it as a new beginning. Pick yourself up. You know what? Take a week, cry, mope. I hear that. But after that, you pick yourself up and you get it done. Yeah? That single event is not the determining factor in your outcomes of your life. If it was, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you right now. Okay, so we're ready to go to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Dr. Keith Davidson. Keith is an author and also a doctor of education, and he's going to be talking to you about appeals and destinations. Keith?
Yes, thank you, Paul, for your introduction. Appreciate that. My brief, as you said, is to deal with the situation where a student may not have achieved the grades they were expected. In a sense, I'm talking about GCSE and A levels. Another of my colleagues will deal with the other qualifications a bit later on. Just my apology. Next slide. Thank you. So we are talking about appeals. Firstly, not all external candidates, that is, home educated students, will be able to get an assessed grade or grades. Students in this position will need to sit their examinations either in the autumn 2020 or in summer 2021. Because there were no examinations taken this year, 2020, there can be no appeal of exam results. However, students could ask their center to recheck if they believe that an error took place when submitting the grades, including the ranking of grades. Furthermore, they may be able to raise a complaint if they have sufficient evidence of bias or discrimination. Exam boards could then investigate that matter. Next slide, please. I believe that all students should have received a letter from Ofqual to set out what really would be the implications of this year's examination based on the fact that we had the lockdown. If you didn't get that letter, your school should have a copy for you. But I'll just summarize a bit of the letter. Firstly, the letter confirmed that the center will submit grades per pupils based on such things as classwork, homework, assignment results, mock examinations, coursework, and general progress made during the course. In addition, the center, that is the school, will provide a rank order of students' grades in each subject area. Students are warned that the standardization of grades could result in the final grades being different from the original grades submitted to boards. And many of you would have been following the news. In Scotland, the grades of about 30% of pupils were downgraded. And it's predicted that for England and Wales, it will be about 40%. So that's the situation, that there will be a number of pupils who will have grades, or students who will have grades that are downgraded. Now, students were told that they would not be able to inform, or they would not be informed of their grades submitted to Ofqual. And that is the situation. It may be that some may have some idea as to what are the grades submitted on their behalf, but officially, they were not to be informed of those grades. And finally, there will be plans to offer additional examinations in the autumn. I think Dr. Alexis spoke about that earlier on. Just to recap, if that's going to happen, those who will be taking the A-levels, the deadline is the 4th of September. And for those who will want to resit GCSEs, the deadline will be the 18th of September. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, exam day, the results will come, and it's a stressful day for many. And UCAS would have received the results and then matched them to the applicants. They would then make the results available to universities and colleges. Next, universities will then check the offer list that they have and then confirm places to students if the conditions are met. Parents, I would say to you, please check to see if your child needs to send any of their results to universities. If that's the case, they should do so without delay. Next slide, please. Thank you. Good results on the day would be fantastic. And may I just pause to say congratulations in advance to those who will be receiving those good news. If your child results are better than expected, which is what we're talking about, they may wish to look at adjustment to find an alternative course. In other words, if they have a grades well above what they deem themselves they would get, and they base their earlier choice on a lower expectation, now they have better results, they may want to work with the school, with the university, to see if they have another course or other courses that they can consider, so they could upgrade their course in a sense. Adjustment, therefore, is always available. I think we lost the slide just now. But adjustments are always available and will be available between the 13th and the 31st of August. But applicants may only have 5 days to use it. So in other words, if you want to make an adjustment, you will have 5 days within that scope of the 13th to the 31st to organize those adjustments or adjustment as it may be. Finally, for this slide, students would not need to find an alternative course if they decide to keep the original offer made to them by the university. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, universities might still accept you, but there's no guarantee if you have grades that you did not get to satisfy the original offer. Yes, as I repeat, they may still give you and accept you on. They might offer you instead a place on another course. That's the second option. And thirdly, they may suggest a different year for you to enter university. Most call that taking a gap year, etc. Students in this situation who have no offer could then use clearing or consider their options otherwise, such as work, if that's something that they may want to think of. Next slide, please. Now, as I've said before, there are students who will get lower grades than the grades submitted by their center or their school. But recently, the last few days, the government has stated that schools can now appeal their total results, where they have significant numbers of students with grades that have been reduced. So that's a new addition to the old situation most recently. And if your child might be in that situation, they should firstly make immediate contact with the school. And I would suggest that not just a verbal contact, but maybe a letter to express your desire for there to be consideration given to the grades that were assigned to your child. Next slide, please. Now, clearing. Clearing is a chance for students to look for a place if they did not have one after getting their results. To use clearing, you must have no offer on the table. And secondly, they must apply for clearing from the 30th of June. That's past now, but you still can do so depending on the results you get this week or next week, as the case may be. There will be a small fee to apply for the use of clearing in the situation. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, moving on to those who would have reached this destination where they've had good results and they're now ready for university. And so we call this their second destination. First thing that they ought to try to do in what here I've headed as the post-result arrangements, first thing would be to consider whether they would stay in the university halls. This is the traditional option for first-year students. I repeat, it's called university halls. The next option would be private student halls. This is a room in a private-owned student accommodation. They could make arrangements through the university to do that, to find one of those privately owned accommodation. Thirdly, private accommodation. That's the third angle. This is probably good for mature students who know the business of living already on their own. Fourthly, some students may opt for staying at home. The upside to this is that they would save money, but there are downsides, such as the ability to interact with their peers at university. So they need to consider that, whether it might be best to stay at home or to take the other three options we've just discussed. Then you have to consider what you need to take with you. There is your bank account, if you have that already. Details, you need to take that with you. Clothes, of course. Things like your passport, driving license, national insurance number, if you have been working before, and NHS medical cards, kitchen utensils, electronics gadgets, such as leads and so forth, your charger, all those things you need to take with you. Have basic food ready, bedding materials also, and other things such as that. So it's not just getting the results. There are things to follow, preparation and arrangements. Next slide, please. Then they ought to be considering budgeting. They need to think about the bills that they may have to pay, utility, internet for that matter, if necessary. Some may want to consider having a TV license, and even insurance. These are necessary things in terms of budgeting. Have a budget with respect to your bank account too, how much you will spend, how much you plan to save. And do this before you head off to uni. Preparing to become more independent is another factor that you need to consider. And to do so, preparing this business of being independent now on your own, what better resource to draw on than your parents for tips? They should be able to provide you with some good ideas as to how you can develop the business of being independent. I would advise and caution you to be careful about overdraft arrangements. Overdraft needs to be a buffer, but you should not consider it to be extra cash you have to play with. If not, you lend yourself up to being in debt, which can be difficult to get out of. So I repeat, do not consider the overdraft facility to be extra cash. It's only a buffer to support you. I believe I may have come now to the end of my presentation. I want to again congratulate all of you, despite the situation you have been in over the last few months, for enduring it. And for those who will be going on to uni, I wish you well. Consider it an important next step in your journey in life and make the best of it. Believe that you can achieve. Believe that you can succeed with your mission, your goal. And so, I say to you, congrats again and wish you all the best for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Davidson. Look, guys, you know what? The people who are speaking to you on this Zoom session today are people who have done the course. You know, these are people who you are benefiting from walking in their footsteps. And I'm really hoping that, you know, you guys are really absorbing as much of the information as possible. And I have to say the quality of the questions that I'm seeing in the Q&A, which we will come to and we will address, does demonstrate to me that you guys are serious and you're taking this straight. So good on you. I'd like to now go to introduce my next speaker. My next speaker is Christine Hodes. Christine is an educational specialist and she's going to talk to you about the appeals process. Christine.
Thank you, Paul, and just like to say thank you to Dr. Davidson and Dr. Alexis for touching on appeals and retakes. This part of the session really is just to give you a better idea of what to do if you're not happy with your results. And I'm going to focus on A-levels, GCSE and vocational and technical qualifications. Can I have the next slide, please? One of the things that I want to emphasize is that as an individual, you cannot appeal your grades by yourself. You have to do that through your school or your college. But the other thing that you need to be aware of is that you can't challenge your school or college under the appeals process in relation to your grade that's been submitted or your rank order position. So essentially, if you're not happy with your grade that comes through, you're unable under this appeals process, you're unable to do that. But you can ask your school or college to check whether it's made an admin error when submitting your centre assessment grade or your position in the rank order. And if your school finds that it's made a mistake in the data that it's provided to the exam board, it can ask the exam board to look into that in order for it to be corrected. Can I have the next slide, please? Your school and college can also appeal if they believe that the exam board has used the wrong data when calculating your grades, or they've made a mistake when it communicated your grades to you. So, for example, they could have given you somebody else's grades, or they could have interpreted the grades that your school or college submitted to them. The school can also appeal if it believes that the historical data used for standardisation was not a reliable basis for predicting its 2020 results. Now, Dr. Alexis spoke about the different forms of evidence that the school would have to use. Could I just have the next slide, please? So I just wanted to give some examples of when, what they actually mean by historical data and the situations when this could actually be appealed. So, for example, the school could appeal if they believed that there's been a substantial change in the demographics of your school or your college. For example, if you used to be a single-sex school, but then you became co-educational, your school are going to believe that your results are not indicative of what they should be. Your school could have experienced a significant event such as a flood or a fire that caused students to relocate. So it consequently affects 1 year's results in the historical data that it's presented to the exam board. The other thing to be aware of is that where there's evidence that results were likely this year, 2020, were likely to show a different pattern of grades to results in the previous years. For example, where schools are concerned that the statistical model used could affect individual high ability students, they can also appeal that, because just going back to what I was saying before, if the results are not indicative of the students this year and they're going on previous years, somebody's going to miss out. So the schools can appeal on that basis. Could I have the next slide, please? So what happens if they won't submit an appeal on your behalf? Well, the school and or your college, they must have a process in place for you to ask for a review of that decision so that someone else at your centre considers your request. If you wish to complain that your school or college doesn't have an appropriate process, then the school should be giving you their complaints process in the first instance. So it's really important that you communicate with the school and make sure that you are fully aware of what that complaints process is so that you can follow that. I think the other thing as well is that you have a right to know, you know, how the school have come to their assessment in terms of your centre assessment grade, and also, you know, how they need to explain to you how they made their judgment and the evidence that they've used. So you can ask the school for that. Just to let you know that the deadline for an appeal for GCSE and A-levels is deemed as the 17th of September 2020. But I would be advising students and parents that you get your appeal in as soon as possible if you believe that there's been some kind of error. Could I have the next slide, please? So what if you feel that your school has been biased against you? What happens? So it needs to be made clear, it's important to remember that receiving a grade lower than you expected is not in itself an indication of bias or discrimination. So remember when I was saying earlier, if you're not happy with the grade because you feel you should have had something higher, you cannot appeal against that, nor can you say that you've been school have been biased against you or discriminated against you. So for your case to be considered, you'll need to show something specific which calls for an explanation that your school has not been able to give. Can I have the next slide, please? So I wanted to give an example of what bias would look like. Okay, so this is just an example. There could be many different situations. So for example, you have student Z who is from a Black and Asian minority ethnic background, and they're given a centre assessment grade 3 for GCSE history, but you were expecting a grade 4. You also learned that a number of your students who are also from a similar background to you have received lower than expected grades for history. So the exam board might want to, in the first instance, review the rank order information from the school. And if they felt that the information that they looked at showed that the rank order for GCSE history showed that Black, Asian and minority ethnic students are mostly in the lower end, but not in the case for other subjects, then the exam board will want to ask for a further explanation from the school. Could I have the next slide, please? So how can I complain? If you believe there's been some kind of bias or discrimination, you must raise this with your school in the first instance. I think the message that we've been saying throughout is that it's important to have that communication with your school or your college. If you feel that your concerns when you've raised them have not been addressed, you could raise your concerns with the exam board, which has issued your results. But just to be mindful that the exam board will want to know, will probably be asking the question, have you raised it with your school first? So always go to the school first. Just want to highlight that you need to sort of be mindful that this would not be considered as an appeal. What you're making is an allegation. And what you're saying is that there's been some kind of malpractice or maladministration that's occurred in relation to your centre assessment grade or rank order position. So it's not an appeal, you're making an allegation, which is the serious allegation. Could I have the next slide, please? So you've made the allegation. What will the exam board do with it? Well, they'll carry out an investigation to gather evidence so it can decide whether malpractice or maladministration has occurred. It's likely to review your academic record and any other specific evidence you provide. So it's really important that you keep any email trails that you may have collated over time with your teacher, any evidence to show perhaps that you were operating at a grade 4 and not a grade 3. The exam board may choose to look at other relevant data, including historical data provided by the school. So they may look at past performance of students, for example. They'll also want to talk to your head teacher and the teacher you say is responsible for the malpractice, because remember, you're making an allegation. You're saying that this person has discriminated against you. So it's important that the exam board has all sides in order to make an informed decision. If, after all of that, the exam board believes that there's evidence of malpractice, then they will review your results. Doesn't mean to say that your results will change, but they will review them to determine whether or not there's been any form of bias or discrimination. Could I have the next slide, please? So I just quickly want to talk about the appeals process for vocational qualifications. And like GCSEs and AS and A-levels, this year the appeals process will not happen as it normally would. Now, with vocational and technical qualifications, there is such variety. I believe there's about 14,000 plus. Therefore, it hasn't been possible to narrow down the different appeal processes for these qualifications. So the grounds for appeal are going to vary. So what you need to do is, your first port of call really is to talk to your school, but you need to just check the appeals process on their website. And just be mindful that some exam boards may charge you a fee for providing some information. And I think it's just important to remember that if you appeal your grade, it can go up, it can go down, or it can stay the same. So it's important to have that in mind. Could I have the next slide, please? So if you're not happy with your results, once again, it's important that you speak to your school or college if you think you have a reason to appeal. They will then submit the appeal on your behalf. In some cases, for example, private candidates, they can appeal directly to the awarding organisation. But I think the key message here is really to speak to your teachers and they can let you know which route is best. And if you're still not happy, you do have the opportunity to complain directly to Ofqual, which is the regulator for exams. Could I have the next slide, please? Similar sort of thing to GCSE, AS and A-level. If you feel that the school or college has been biased against you, you must raise it with your school or college in the first instance, and you must follow any process that the school sets out. In some cases, it may be appropriate to bring these concerns directly to the awarding organisation instead. So you would need to think about the reasons why you feel your school or college has been biased against you. You can also go onto the awarding organisation's website for further details in relation to appeals and what to do if you believe that you have been biased against or discriminated. I think I've come to the end of my presentation, but once again, I just want to echo what Dr. Alexis and Dr. Davidson have been saying. I really think that, you know, students, you've been absolutely resilient because it's been a very difficult time, yet you soldiered on and you remain optimistic. And I just want to say, I wish you all the best. And I really hope that when you open your results on Wednesday for your A-levels or next week, Thursday for your GCSEs, that you have the grades that you deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine. Again, you know, the encouraging words and the level of information that our panelists are helping you guys out with is tremendous. And as I've always said about all the programs that Urban Synergy puts on, and this one is no different, you know, you just stand to benefit. Just by being in the room, you're benefiting. And I just want to remind you that even though some of you are taking notes and you are asking questions, we will come to the questions at the end, but more importantly, this entire session is being recorded. And I know you'll have access to the recording so that if there's something you didn't take a note of or something you didn't hear or wasn't clear, you can always revisit it. So again, moving on to our next presenter. Our next presenter is Juliet Alexander. Juliet is a careers lead. She's going to talk to you about UCAS and about further support.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate it. Let me tell you quickly a little bit about myself. I used to be, back in the day, before grey hairs, I used to be a TV presenter, one of the BBC's very first black female presenters. I was in a university lecturer for about 12 years. For the last 8 years or so, I've worked as head of careers. So I work as head of careers in schools, mostly in Hackney, and I'm working with young people like yourselves, trying to make sure they, follow the right path and make sure that they know what's coming next. I also work with a number of charities. You may have heard of a couple of them. The Amos Bursary, which is a charity which funds and mentors bright black boys, but from next year girls as well, from inner city schools. I work with the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal. So when you go past St Thomas's Hospital, you will see the statue to the first named black woman in the UK. And I'm pleased to say that that was part of my endeavours. I work with the Huntley Archives because I'm a great believer in making sure that we record our history and make it open, keep it there for other people. And I also work with an ovarian cancer charity because unfortunately, with that particular cancer, it tends to affect black women in particular to a higher degree. But today I'm wearing my careers hat and I'm here to talk you through some of the areas, you can see it there, about UCAS and further support down the line. This is what I do on a daily basis. Let's start with the first slide if we can. Right, my very first thing I say to all my students is be prepared. Have everything ready for results day. It's only a couple of days for A-levels and next week for GCSEs. By everything, I mean make sure for A-levels, make sure you've got your UCAS password. Make sure you've got your UCAS number. Make sure that your school is communicating with you with your preferred email. Don't go giving them the school email when you don't even look at it. So make sure school, university, college, wherever it is you're going on to, have your correct and up-to-date email. Make sure that you have the contact for your head of sixth form. Make sure you have the contact for your data manager, because as previous speakers have said, if it comes to it and you want to appeal, you need to know who to go to. So make sure that you have that information. It also may be that you don't get your results as clearly as you want. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute in track. And if that happens, you need to make sure that your data manager can send it to you and you can then pass it on. These are strange times, 2020, but you know what? You lot have done really well to have come this far. And I know you'll keep your head, and with the support of people here at Urban Synergy and also with your parents, I know you'll be fine. Let's move on and talk about, after you've got everything ready, let's talk about what happens if you get unexpected grades. I'm just going to reiterate some of the things that have been said before, but I see no problem with reiterating it. If you find that you don't do as well as you'd hoped or you'd expected, then the first thing to do is to get in touch with the school. Talk to your careers lead, if you've got a careers lead, or your key stage worker. Speak to your teachers and also to your family about your options. Speak to the university, this is for the A-level students. Speak to the university that you'd planned and pinned your heart on going to. They may still take you, especially as this year is so difficult. And, you know, for instance, they're not having any overseas students coming. So, you know what? They've got more places for home students. So especially if you've only missed out by a few grades, speak to the university. If you're not able to get onto your chosen course, use UCAS clearing service to find a similar course that's absolutely right for you. Make sure when you're doing that, look at your entry requirements and make sure that your grades match up to that. If you're not able to get onto your chosen course, you may be able to resit your exams. Previous speakers have spoken about that. Keep an eye on those deadlines, don't miss out on them. Speak to your teachers about this and what you need to do next. There are alternatives, of course. You can do something different. You can, if you wish, take a gap year. Now, I normally say to students who come to me asking about gap years, fair enough, if you've got something to do which will enhance your career prospects, then do it. If not, then just hold on to what you have. There are a number of internships which are opening up, a number of what we call virtual work experience, really internships. There's a number of companies who are looking at their lack of diversity, for want of a better term, and they're opening up internships for students, Black, Asian, and minority ethnic. So keep an eye on that. If I can, at the end of this, I'll put a list together and make sure you have that as well. Have a look at things like degree apprenticeships. Now, personally, I think degree apprenticeships are absolutely brilliant. You leave with decent A-levels, you get paid immediately from the start of September, and that could be 21,000 plus. Then your host, it could be Rolls-Royce, it could be a lot of chambers, A lot of law practices are opening up degree apprenticeships now. Medical areas are opening up degree apprenticeships. So they will take you on, pay you a fee, and they will sponsor you to a university. And in the main, those tend to be Russell Group universities. Now, when you leave, when you graduate, you will graduate without any owing anybody anything. So no debt at all. You have your degree, no debt, and you will have been paid all that time. Now, most degree apprenticeships ask that you then return to the host company for a minimum of 2.5 to 3 years. Personally, I think it's a brilliant plan. And you parents who are listening, I know you're going to agree with me. I'm a mother of 3 myself. What happens to a lot of graduates is that they, of course, they get jobs. And when you look on university information sites, they'll say, yes, this amount of our graduates get jobs. But what sort of jobs? Waiting at tables? Not necessarily graduate level jobs. But with a degree apprenticeship, you will then return to your host company and you'll stay there for 2 or 3 years. It's invaluable. Have a look at it and I'll tell you how to. Of course, there's also employment. If you've got employment possibilities, then run to it, jump to it. But these are just some of the options. I like people. It's my career's hat. I like people and young people to have options. Let me just run to the next slide, please. The next slide. I call these useful links. Okay. Now, a lot of you, well, for the majority of you, track on UCAS will be completely new. You don't know what the heck that is. I'm going to put this all, or rather your colleagues here are going to put this all into a link. You'll be able to hit on this link and it tells you what it actually means to work in track. So it tells you what your status means. Some of you on results day might click into your UCAS and see that it hasn't been upgraded because they're still waiting for confirmation from your schools. Unfortunately, that sometimes happens. If that happens, jump to it. You've got your email, get the data, make sure they email the universities and put it into UCAS, and then you'll see all your results on track. If it's not the results you expected, requesting a review or appeal. All the other speakers have brilliantly gone through that, but this is just in addition. If you forget what they've said for any reason, click on this. This is UCAS. I'm using ucas.com because it's available to everyone and it's free. Just click on that and it will tell you step by step how to request a review or appeal. Looking for more courses. Clearing's open right now. And for the first time this year, there's something which I think is absolutely brilliant, which is called Clearing Plus. What Clearing Plus does is it actually matches you. If you're under clearing, there's this button in track called View Matches. So when you get to it, you'll see it. If you click this, you can start browsing courses that you've been matched to based on your application and who the universities are looking for. So they'll look at your grades, look at the different courses that you've applied for, and they will try to match you to a university that has an availability. I mean, they're even doing the work for you. Couldn't be simpler. So that's new for this year, never before. And it's called Clearing Plus for 2020, and it will match you, and it's on UCAS. Absolutely easy peasy. Really look at that and get on to clearing now. Obviously, we all hope that your results will be superb and you'll get into the top place that you want to. But have a peep at clearing. Just have a look at the courses that are available and have a word with your parents or older siblings who have been through this and just say, what else could I go for? Just have a look. It eases your mind. Okay, then point 5, if you've been accepted, what to do next? Again, lots of my colleagues have gone through that, but this is an easy peasy 1, 2, 3, what to do next. 6, got better results than expected, go straight to adjustment. Again, this is step-by-step telling you what to do in adjustment, what the options are for you, how to go through it. Because it's kind of worrying sometimes. You've got this offer, and even though you've got better results than the offer, you think, do I hold on to it? What do I do? They will talk you through it. You actually don't make a decision. You look at it. You can even talk to some of the universities, to the admissions people, without making any decision about what you're going to do. It's only when you finally click that little button that you actually commit yourself. So it's a really good thing to do. And 2 things that I actually really like is When you look at websites, they'll tell you what they want you to know. But those of you who've got mates or older siblings who have been to university, they'll tell you the truth, warts and all. And that's what UniBuddy does. That link puts you in touch with young people just like yourselves, a year older, who are at university, and you can ask them virtually, you can ask them questions about anything, you know, what's transportation like, what's the nightlife like, you know, is it very noisy on campus, blah, 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 whatever you want to ask, click on that one. And if you decide, or a decision is made that you're not going to any of the universities that you'd hoped to, then you don't have to get your parents, jump in a car and whiz around the world, around the country rather. Go on the virtual university tours. They are absolutely brilliant, and they will take you virtually through the door. You'll have a talk with some of the student ambassadors. The dean of university will greet you. They'll talk through everything you need to know about that particular university. Now, just before I leave, I want to show you 2 slides. I'm hoping that they're also up there. Oh yes, thank you very much. The first slide here is the exam results helpline. This number, you don't have to write it down because it will be available in the background information that's sent to you. But that is the helpline that's delivered by the National Careers Service. So they govern the majority of the careers managers like myself who work in schools, and prospects and various others. So there's a hotline, and you can phone them on results day to ask them anything you want to. And in fact, it's open from the 12th of August right until the 28th of August, from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. every day. So have your questions ready for them. That's the helpline. The other slide that's coming up here shows a virtual careers fair. This is if perhaps you might decide to take a gap year or just to delay or defer or whatever it is. This virtual careers fair is really interesting. There's 2 days. On Monday, the 24th of August, it's aimed at 18-year-olds, and on Tuesday, the 25th, aimed at 16-year-olds. In other words, A-level students and GCSE students. Live Q&A, National Career Service advisors again. To get on that, you do have to get on this link to register. Again, that's going to be in the package that's coming up. That's the end of my presentation. But what I say to whether you're a year 11 student or you're 12 or you're 13 or the schools that I cover in Hackney, basically I want you to have options. I want you to have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C. And I want you to know, as all the other panelists have said, that all of those plans can go away. Don't worry about it, because at the end, it works out. It's just a weird thing about this world. And I'm old enough, let me tell you, I'm old enough to be able to tell you this, that you have your plans and the right thing for you will come the way it should be. Okay, but this is information for you in the meantime. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet. Okay, guys, look, first of all, I want to thank all of our speakers, June, Keith, Christine, and Juliet, and of course, our leader, Leila Thomas, for their contributions so far tonight. And I certainly want to thank you guys who have stayed, and I'm hoping you've listened intently and you've taken notes and not just learned a lot, but have information that you can pass on to your friends who perhaps weren't on the call, who couldn't make it. So where we are now, we've come to the question and answer section. And what I'm going to do is I will read the question and answer. And I think any of the panelists who feel so inclined that that question may move in should just unmute themselves and just pitch in, and let's knock off these questions. There's quite a few in the question and answer section, but I'm going to start with one that came into the chat first, and I'll read it very briefly. It was stated that the criteria for calculation of grades will include the past performance of the school. If the school is a low performing school and the student is a shining star, is it possible that they will be penalized? How can this be addressed and amended?
Can I?
Of course.
I'll start with that. If this student is a shining pupil, the school would have had evidence about the performance of that pupil. I don't know if you heard about a gentleman who was taking the education to court because his daughter went to a school that wasn't a high-flying school, and she is a bright student, and he was concerned that her results would be affected by that. So that sort of student will have a chance to appeal, and the school will be there to confirm that she is high-flying, because they would have given her mock grades, and they would have looked at her performance throughout her school period, especially during years 10 and 11 of the GCSE. So even though the school is a poor school, if the pupil have evidence that they are bright from the work that they have done, they stand a good chance of increasing their grades.
Thank you very much. Our next question was from Marie, and it says, as there's an opportunity for young people to retake their exams and their school year was cut short, can parents/students request examination support from the school in order to support them?
I believe they should be able to do that. Remember that the student did not complete the full course. And so that the school have some obligation, I would say more than some obligation, an obligation to help them bridge that gap before they take the exam. And they should be able to provide the resources to do that.
Yes. Can I just say, can I add to that as well? Certainly at our school, what we would do over and above, obviously you've got your exam papers, you've got your past papers, you've got one-to-one tuition with students that you're sort of preparing for the Oxford students and Russell Group students and so forth. But my understanding is that from September, we will be helping those students who are planning to retake. And also from now, once exams are over, all I would say to every parent there and child listening is that you get onto your school, immediately you know your results, and say, I am planning to retake. Please let me know how you plan to support me.
Are we clear, guys? So look, a lot of this is what is taking place. A lot of the conversation that I'm hearing happening is about you being proactive. Yeah. So the moment your grades drop, whatever they are, whatever they look like, what I've heard throughout this call is a number of actions that you have to take. Parents, you're the cheerleaders. You have to make sure that you're there, making sure that your children are taking the actions that we've already mentioned. It's about proactivity. It's about speed. Yep. It's about acting very, very quickly to see whatever gaps and whatever availabilities are there to make sure that your child's at the front of the queue to capitalize on it. The next question, and I think this question was meant to ask, how does one check the past performance of a school?
Well, you can look at the Ofsted data. They provide data on schools' performance. And also the DFE, the Department for Education, also provide annual data too on how schools have performed. You may need to check with their information section. But the data in terms of school performance available. So it's a matter of, as you said, being proactive and ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Can I also say, sorry?
I'm muted here. Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, June. Just wanted to add, a lot of schools on their websites will also publish their past performance. So if they haven't got it on the website, you can ask the school and they should be able to provide that for you.
Can I just say, they used to look at 5A star to C, but a lot of schools now are being assessed on the English baccalaureate, the 7 subjects they have to take. So you'll get an idea of the standard of the school. The only thing is that the baccalaureate is coming recently and the 5 GCSEs were in before. But you will get some idea how well the school is doing.
Okay, move to our next question.
Another thing, just very quickly, I mean, it depends how deep you want to delve, but obviously all the local newspapers will publish how the school does compared with other schools, just in case there's any ambiguity about the reporting of grades. They will tell you, you know, this is a top school in this area, second, third, fourth, and they will always put the grades and where students are going on to as well. That's the normal thing.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure that if some parents can't access the information, I'll speak to Urban Synergy, and I'm sure we'll be able to make some provision and give some help to assess the school that you're interested in.
Are we good now? Yeah, you sure? Good. How does a pupil with the results of know all the results of BAME students to form a view of bias? So how do we form this view whether or not bias has been applied?
Shall I take this question? A lot of it is going to depend on, it can come from a variety of sources. It can come from your classmates. It can come from social media. You know, you may speak to other students from different schools to form some kind of idea or evidence. But also it could be from the information that you've collated as a student from your teacher. So it could be emails that you've received in terms of previous exams or tests that you've undertaken, which shows that you are performing at a consistent level, higher than what the grade was perhaps assigned to you. So there are a variety of ways. And remember, I think I said in my presentation, you have to have something specific to show that you've been biased. Now, off call, I did speak to them about that in terms of how easy is it to prove bias, and they have said it's very, very difficult. But you shouldn't let that deter you. Just make sure that you speak to students, look at the information that you've collated, look at the marks that you may have achieved on previous tests, etc. Thank you.
Our next question is, if you decide to resit your GCSEs in the autumn term, does this mean if you were intending to study A-levels, you will have to postpone this until the following year?
Can I just say, I think, can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Can I just say, depends on the grades you actually receive. If you have a 4, for example, and you have a high 4, because even though they give you a grade 4, there are marks to each exam thing. They could look and see, you know, whether that was a high 4 or not, and you could go on to do your A-levels and resit and try and get a higher grade. But it's not always easy, because if you take an exam, resit an exam, there's a possibility that you might not get the grade that you really want to get, or you might even get a lower grade. So, you know, everything is a chance. So it depends how the institution would consider it. If it's a 4 and it's near a 5, they might want to support you. But if it's a low 4, near a 3, they might not consider it. I hope I've made myself clear.
Okay. Did Christine already answer a question on identifying or proving bias? I think she did. Yeah. Another question we have here, you stated that appeal results if allowed. What does if allowed mean? Right,
that was me saying if allowed. The point is they have to go to their school for them to appeal on their behalf. A candidate cannot do it themselves. A student can't do it themselves. The school has got to agree to want to put in for that appeal.
Okay, thank you. Nikki Dixon asked, if a year 11 child in a school with a rocky history whereby GCSE results started to improve, then dipped, bracket a V-shape, how will the past performance affect the standardization process?
Well, I would say, Paul, that the dip in that V curve would be taken into account too. Mm-hmm. So it would be a kind of a holistic assessment to see how that pupil perform over time, whether there are severe inconsistencies and so forth. If it is the case that the dip might just be something that is small and not the consistent performance over time, then I will submit that the benefit ought to be given to the pupil.
Can I just say, can I just add a bit there?
Of course.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you could finish. I would say that I would always suggest using extenuating circumstances. It could be that a relative passed away. It could be that the child moved house at that time. It could be that they were ill. I mean, I would always suggest that you search to see if you can think of an extenuating circumstance and make sure that the school puts that in their reference that they write for the year 11s. That should, if it was during the time that they would have taken exams or took mocks and it dipped, then really that should form part of the reference to the college about that student and the reasons why their results might not be, or their predicted results might not be as good as they would normally.
Okay, just a quick response to Kaz, who asked about the slides. I don't know if are the slides themselves going to be available. I know the video will be available, but Kaz was asking if the slides will be available.
What we're going to do is sorry, Kate here, you can't see me, but we're going to be putting them together as a summary. The slides were quite massive, but we'll make sure that all of the content and especially the links are easily accessible in a short document that will be posted on our website for sure, and we'll share it with anyone that we've got registered that did attend in person.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is, if we don't go into the school to collect our results, will they be emailed to us? That should be an easy one.
They can email them.
Yeah.
They can email the results to you.
Perfect.
You should have had a letter by now telling you, each student, saying exactly what the procedures for school. For instance, at my school, we've got staggered, because the year cohort is 250, it's one of the largest schools in Hackney. So we've got staggered entry to the school. And because I'm not quite 21 and a black woman, so I have to make sure that there's a lot of social distancing when I'm speaking with any of the students on results day.
Okay.
Can I also say some schools are not letting the children go into the centres to collect their examination results either. Some schools are not doing it. They might change their mind. They might change their mind later on. But there's
the advice for everybody is to check what your school is doing.
Yes, that is the best advice.
Yeah, be proactive. Check what your school is doing. A question came in via email. Will a school consider taking me if I didn't get the grades I needed, but I have been doing my own independent studies for subjects I want to take? I've had tutors every week, brought my A-level books, started tutoring primary pupils, and doing extra stuff, e.g. made my CV.
That's a difficult one because it depends what grade she gets. If it's just past, I was talking about grades that have educational currency, you know. So I'm saying if her grade is not, is just below, fine. But if it's quite far down, she might have more difficulty getting them. You could get a school to think about it and accept her, but it's, you know, if it's low down the grades range, you know, that person might not stand such a good chance.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add another thing? That questioner is telling us this. Have they told the school or college that information, that they've done all this stuff, extracurriculum stuff?
So that's a point. Make sure you're letting the school know your activities. Angela McDonald asked, how are colleges or sixth forms going to support students who are resitting GCSE exams while still studying for their A-levels? They are disadvantaged, needed to focus on resits instead of purely on their A-levels.
Well, that happens anyway, to be fair. A number of students who might be doing BTEC, they might go to do a BTEC with a level English on the 4 or maths on the 4. So they'll still go on to the BTEC and in addition do the maths and English. Some schools and sixth forms allow students to do A-levels and retake their maths and English, or one of those, not both. So unfortunately, it is done. It's not unknown.
Okay. Here's a very good question, which I remember from my school days. Yeah, my memory's that good. It's that far back. Is there a charge for filing an appeal if you make an allegation?
Yeah, there is.
Sorry, was there an answer there?
I can try and answer that question. If it depends on what the qualification that you're appealing. So if it's a vocational and technical qualification, then it really depends on your awarding organisation. You would need to check, because I think I said earlier that some awarding organisations may charge a fee. So it really is going to be down to you to do the homework. In relation to GCSE and A-level, there doesn't appear to be a fee, but once again, you would probably want to check with your school just in case there is some sort of fee.
Excellent. Our last two questions. Lakia says, is it likely that a student's GCSE assessment grades can be reduced if a school's first cohort of Year 11 pupils attending a school that has an Ofsted inadequate rating in all areas? And thank you, Karen, for adding to my last two questions and making it 3.
I think the Ofcom would look at what was submitted, not totally on the history and the failure of a school. You're looking at the data submitted in terms of the pupils in that school. And remember, there's a ranking too. That is part of the process. So it's more about what happened with that set of students and their performance. There will be data that they can draw on to justify why they want to appeal as a school in terms of those group of students that they're looking at. That's my take on it.
Can I just also say that some cohorts tend to be brighter than other cohorts in certain years, do academically better. So if a school is judged inadequate, that shouldn't have an effect on if the cohort is a particularly bright year and they've done well. It shouldn't affect the performance or their grades.
Okay. Zena asks, if you get a 4 in GCSE maths and English, and in the case of my son's sixth form, they allow you to proceed to study A-levels, will you get into university, as I understand that you have to have a grade 5 in maths and English?
Yes, I'm afraid that to get on to do a university degree now, you have to get a grade 5. So he would have to resit.
Even if he went on to sixth form?
Even if he went on to sixth form, he would have to reset. And in this year too, they're fortunate because they're given 2 bites of the cherry. They can take it in October and take in November, and they can take it again in January.
Okay.
But most universities, as far as I'm aware, all universities will take it with a 5, not a 4.
It would be in the interest of the student to resit.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Karen's asking, does a school meeting the criteria of appeals due to the cohort improvement have to pay a large fee? Also, do they appeal the whole school results or only those of individuals whose parents have asked them to?
First of all, it's not the parents as the school would have to decide whether they want to appeal on behalf of the student. The parents can't say, I want you to appeal for my child. It's changed here now. It was announced about 2-3 days ago. That is the school that makes, decide whether they want to appeal on behalf of a student.
And remember, just to add, the criteria for appeals is quite narrow. So the school can appeal if they believe, I think Dr. Alexis talked about sort of performance, and it's really going to depend on the cohort in terms ability, if the school believe that they've got particularly bright students, but the grades that have been assigned to them are too low, for example, then they can appeal for the cohort. It wouldn't be necessarily for the school. And I think was part of the question asking about a fee. Paul,
There was a question that asked about a fee for the appeals. I did that one earlier.
Done that already. Okay, thank you.
Okay. How do you explain the ranking system, please? Is it normal distribution? Statistician out there, eh?
Well, I think my understanding, Paul, is that with the ranking, say, for example, you have a student taking biology, 20 students. Their performance as a group of 20 would then be ranked according to how they themselves perform. And that would be submitted to the board for them to approve. So if I'm not too sure if I give you the right answer there or the answer that is necessary. But the ranking is, as I said, is based on the performance of the total group in that particular subject.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen and audience, I'd give you 30 seconds for your last question. The question queue is empty. So I'm gonna sing a little song. No, I'm not. I'm just gonna wait and give you guys a little bit of time if you have any last questions before we shut this down. No, thank you. Okay, so look, it's been a really good session. I think a lot of good information has been shared. And oh, I have one. I'm gonna give Clem the last word. Is grade 5 maths and English required for a degree apprenticeship?
It depends very much on what the degree apprenticeship is. Grade 5 for maths and English is required for virtually everything. And I have to say this, degree apprenticeships are not an easy option. They're becoming very popular, and there's a lot of people who are queuing up for them. So you will find that you're up against a lot of competition. So grade 5, absolutely.
So should I give them another 30 seconds? No, I don't think so. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for all the questions. And thanks again to the panel for providing the answers and the information and the context for which the questions no doubt stem from. Just a quick goodbye from me. I don't think I'm going to come back on the feed again. I've done my bit and glad to have taken the time to work with you all. So we're going to hand over to our comrade leader, Leila Thomas.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and thank you to all our panelists for sharing that important information. All right, I just want to say to everybody that in the slide deck that you saw, there was lots of pictures of organizations that we do mentoring with and our local role models who give up their time to inspire and guide the next generation. What I did want to say is that there isn't just academics that make you as an individual, it's also the soft skills. From what we can see, very close to where a lot of us live in Canary Wharf in the city, there's a lot of prestigious organizations that are looking for diverse talent, which Juliet was talking about. They're looking for young people, not just with academics, they're actually looking for young people that have a can-do attitude and are enthusiastic and have good qualities such as, you know, being reliable, committed, those essential skills that they're looking for. Yeah. And teamwork, exactly. Thank you, Juliet. You're the career lady. Sorry. And, you know, Urban Synergy is there, yeah, to illuminate all those career pathways, to make sure those young people are positive and they really are confident and they know they can be those lawyers in the city. They can be those, I don't know, data analytics or electricians or, you know, in those banks, there's all the jobs, there's all the creative jobs that, you know, but they're looking for diverse talent, and that's what Urban Synergy is about. So what we do have companies that do degree apprenticeships, And what we sometimes do is provide that network for those young people to give them that best start in life, that essential work experience that they can talk about when they go for those interviews. So if you go to our website, we do have opportunities available right now. And sign up to have your own mentor. These are mentors that people actually pay for. They're almost like coaches in a way. What else can you want in life? Someone who's done it before you, showing you the way on how to do something. Paul Lawrenson calls it the cheat card. I always remember that, like in the game. But yeah, please look at our website. You'll see the e-mentoring programs. Please sign up. It's for young people aged 16 to 18. We're here to help you have a smooth transition and stay positive and enthusiastic about your futures. So what I did want to say is thank you to you all again. One, thank you to our panelists and all our volunteers to make this evening successful. Thank you to all the parents and the guardians, aunts and uncles who signed up to ensure young people, have, support going forward. And most of all, the young people who have signed up to get information and share it and be positive influence with your peers. I hope today's helped you to feel more at ease about results day, and continue to be proactive and be prepared and stay positive and just keep shining, folks. Teamwork makes the dream work. So I'd like to thank you all for dialing on this evening, and please do go to our website and share the essential information so that people can be prepared and feel more comfortable when results days comes forward. So thank you, folks, for dialing on. Thank you.
Leila, just really quickly, would you be able to just give everyone the heads up about our Capgemini program that's running, the Career Jumpstart?
Sure. Is Diane online? Well, okay, we do have a Career Jumpstart program. It's we're working in partnership with Capgemini. They're doing a degree apprenticeship in business and technology as well, those opportunities. But what we do is we're working with employees from Capgemini to show you all the different areas within that business. So artificial intelligence, you meet all these, technology runs through everything right now. A lot of young people know how to use it, but they also need to understand how it works as well.
It's also, can you hear me, Leila?
No, I'm just joking, I can.
Hi, it's also employability skills. So you get career insights with people who actually work for Capgemini in different technology roles. And, you actually get to work on business cases and things like that. So it's very interesting. And we talk to you about ready for work and goal setting and all sorts of things. So it's employability skills, but it's also something you can add to your CV.
That's very important, folks. When you're going for that first job and you have a blue chip organization on your CV, it shows that you're committed and you're reliable and you know how to fit in. And these are essential qualities that organizations are looking for. Diane, where is that application? How do they locate that to register?
I think
just send an email, contact us maybe.
If you just info@urban synergy.
If you email info@urban synergy, there are spaces. It's age 16 to 18, and it's actually it'll finish before. What's the duration of it, Dan?
It'll finish probably on the 3rd of September, but
it's a short course.
It actually starts tomorrow, so
right. So don't miss it if there's a few spaces there. So please sign up. So I think that is it from us this evening, and again, thank you all for dialing on.